Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And this time we're going to be tackling B2B sales.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and specifically, we're going to be looking at something called consultative selling.
Okay.
And you've actually given me this chapter from this guide on mastering this approach. And I'm really excited to dive into this and see, why ditching the old, kind of pushy salesperson stereotype can actually lead to deals that benefit everybody.
Yeah, what's so fascinating is that the guide starts by talking about the history of sale techniques and how, markets just became so crowded and clients got smarter, so you couldn't just have these transactional sales relationships anymore.
Right, yeah.
It really forced a shift.
It makes you wonder, remember all those, old school hard sell tactics?
Oh, yeah.
I bet those wouldn't really fly today.
Not at all.
And then Guide suggests that's why these modern techniques like consultative selling have emerged.
Exactly.
Where it's all about, really understanding your client's needs first.
Absolutely. The guide argues that buyers today are looking for a partner who understands their unique challenges.
Right.
It's less about pushing a product and more about providing tailored solutions that deliver genuine value.
And speaking of understanding your clients, the guide dives into this idea of emotional intelligence being so crucial in this new landscape.
For sure.
It's not just about knowing your product, it's about connecting with your clients on a human level.
Yeah, and the guide takes it a step further and suggests using data not just for targeting, but also for understanding your ideal client's emotional landscape.
Oh, wow.
So, for example, you could analyze industry forums to see what your clients are talking about, what keeps them up at night, and then you can tailor your approach to address those anxieties.
So it's like using data to then inform your emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
And then which helps you to build that trust, which is kind of where the guide differentiates traditional selling from consultative selling.
Yeah.
You're moving from that pushy salesperson to a trusted advisor.
That's a great way to put it. The guide uses the analogy of a doctor diagnosing a patient. You wouldn't prescribe medication without understanding the symptoms.
Right.
Consultative selling is a similar process. You diagnose the client's business pain points before prescribing a solution.
And that diagnosis process requires some serious active listening skills.
Absolutely.
The guide really emphasizes this need to truly understand what the client is saying.
Yeah.
Not just the words, but also their tone and their body language.
It's about picking up on the nuances and the emotions behind their words.
It's almost like you're a detective.
Totally.
Looking for clues
Yeah.
in their tone of voice, their body language, even in what they choose not to say.
Exactly. All of those things help you uncover those hidden pain points that they might not even be aware of.
And then that leads us to this other skill that the guide highlights: effective questioning.
Yeah.
So how do we move beyond those just simple yes or no questions?
Well, the guide recommends using open-ended questions to encourage clients to share their thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
And then utilizing probing questions to really delve deeper into their responses.
I see.
This helps uncover the why behind their statements and clarifies their need.
So instead of saying, do you struggle with efficiency, you might say, what are some of the biggest bottlenecks you face in your daily operations?
Exactly. That encourages a much more meaningful conversation and allows the client to really articulate their challenges in their own words.
Right. And then even with this expert questioning, you still need to have the credibility for them to trust your advice.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of building trust, the guide also highlights this importance of navigating complex sales cycles.
Yes.
It's not just about making a quick pitch and closing the deal. It's about understanding the nuances of B2B sales.
Right. B2B deals often involve multiple stakeholders and longer decision-making processes.
Right.
So the guide really emphasizes the importance of identifying and engaging with all the key decision makers involved, because it's rarely one single person making the final call.
It's like a chess game.
It is.
Figuring out who all the players are and building relationships with each of them.
You got it.
That sounds pretty challenging.
It can be, but the guide offers some insightful strategies.
Okay.
It stresses the importance of tailoring your approach to each stakeholder, understanding their individual needs and concerns, and ensuring that everyone feels heard and valued.
I can see how emotional intelligence plays a role here, too.
Absolutely.
You have to read the room, understand the unspoken dynamics, and adjust your communication style accordingly.
You're building rapport with multiple personalities, not just one.
Exactly. And the guide even suggests that data can actually be an asset in this process.
That's right.
So, for example, using sales analytics to understand the typical buying process within that specific organization or their industry.
Exactly.
So you're not just relying on intuition, you're backing it up with data-driven insights
Right.
to help you navigate those those complex sales cycles more effectively.
That's sure.
It sounds like there's a real art to identifying your ideal client in the first place.
Yeah,
Does the guide delve into that?
it does. And it emphasizes the importance of going beyond just demographics or company size.
Okay.
It's about truly understanding their industry, the challenges they face, and whether your solutions can genuinely address their pain points.
So it's about being selective, recognizing that not every business is going to be a good fit.
Right.
And once you've identified that ideal client, then the next step is crafting that compelling value proposition.
This is where you differentiate yourself from the competition.
Okay.
The guide stresses that it's not just about listing features and benefits.
Right.
It's about framing your offerings in a way that directly addresses the client's specific needs and desires.
So you're not just selling a product, you're selling a solution to their problems.
Exactly.
You're selling them a path to achieving their goals.
That's right. It's about demonstrating a deep understanding of their challenges and articulating how your unique strengths can help them overcome those hurdles and achieve tangible results.
Wow. I'm already seeing how different this is from that traditional sales approach.
Me too.
It's a much more collaborative and client-centric way of thinking.
Yeah.
I think this is a good place for us to pause and gather our thoughts.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to uncover.
I agree.
So we'll pick up this conversation in our next deep dive.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned, everybody.
See you then. One thing that really struck me in this chapter is this idea of, building long-term relationships.
Yeah.
It's not just about closing that initial deal.
Right.
It's about nurturing those connections and turning those clients into loyal partners.
And this is where I think that the guide's focus on emotional intelligence comes in again.
Oh, for sure.
It's about, understanding the emotional currents that are kind of running beneath the surface.
Yeah, like we're becoming emotional detectives,
Right.
deciphering those subtle cues that can reveal the client's motivations and concerns.
Yeah, like why are they hesitant about this one particular feature? Or what are their unspoken fears or aspirations?
Exactly. And once you understand those underlying emotions, you can adjust your approach accordingly.
So instead of just pushing back against their objections with logic and data, you're meeting them where they are emotionally.
Right.
You're addressing those concerns with empathy and understanding.
Yeah, which builds a stronger foundation for the relationship.
So then what happens after the sale?
Right.
How do you keep those relationships strong?
Yeah, how do you go from a one-time buyer to a long-term partner?
Right.
Well, that's where the guide's advice on relationship nurturing comes in.
Okay.
It's about consistent follow-up, providing valuable insights, being genuinely helpful, even when there's no immediate sale in sight.
So you're shifting from a transactional mindset to one of ongoing partnership.
Exactly. You're becoming a trusted advisor that they can rely on, not just a salesperson who disappears after the contract is signed.
Right.
The guide uses this interesting analogy. It compares this approach to gardening.
Okay.
You don't just plant a seed and walk away.
Right.
You have to nurture it, you have to water it, tend to it over time for it to flourish.
I like that analogy.
Relationships are the same way.
Yeah, it highlights how important that consistency is.
Yeah.
But even with the best nurturing, you're still going to need those new leads.
Oh, for sure.
And this is where the guide talks about the power of networking.
Right.
Which I think sometimes gets a bad rap.
It does, but the guide emphasizes the importance of approaching networking with a genuine desire to connect and build relationships.
Okay.
Not just to collect business cards or make a quick pitch.
Right. So you're not walking into an event and thinking, who can I sell to today?
Exactly.
But who can I connect with and learn from?
Right. And the guide argues that this approach leads to more authentic interactions and ultimately more fruitful relationships.
It makes sense.
You never know when a casual conversation might lead to a valuable referral or an unexpected partnership down the line.
Yeah, you're planting those seeds that might blossom in different ways.
Absolutely.
We've talked a lot about the human element of this kind of selling.
Right.
But the guide also dives into the role of data,
Yes.
which seems kind of counterintuitive.
It does seem like a contradiction, but the guide emphasizes that data can actually enhance your emotional intelligence.
Oh, wow.
And help you build stronger relationships.
So it's not about replacing that human connection with algorithms.
Not at all.
But it's about using data to inform your approach.
Right.
And make those connections even more meaningful.
Exactly, like using sales analytics to understand which marketing campaigns resonate most with your ideal client.
Okay.
And then that allows you to personalize your outreach and provide content that truly speaks to their needs and interests.
So you're using data to tailor your message and make sure you're hitting those right emotional notes.
Exactly.
But with all this data available, it can be overwhelming.
It can be.
So are there specific metrics that the guide says salespeople should be tracking?
It does. It emphasizes the importance of understanding your conversion rate,
Okay.
which tells you how effective you are at turning leads into paying customers.
So if your conversion rate is low,
Yeah.
it might mean there's a disconnect somewhere in the
It
process.
could be maybe your messaging isn't resonating or your follow-up is weak.
Right.
It's a good indicator.
It's like a little red flag.
Exactly. It alerts you to areas where you might need to adjust your approach.
The guide also mentions the importance of tracking your average deal size.
Yes, that tells you how much revenue you're generating per deal.
Right. So if your average deal size is low, you might need to rethink your pricing strategy.
Yeah, or you might need to target a different clientele.
Or maybe you're just not effectively communicating the value of what you're offering.
Could be leaving money on the table.
Exactly. And then there's the length of the sales cycle.
Right, how long it takes to close a deal.
From that initial contact to the signed contract.
Yeah, a lengthy sales cycle could point to inefficiencies in your process or maybe unexpected roadblocks.
So maybe it's time to reevaluate your qualification criteria
Right.
or streamline your communication.
Yeah, the guide even suggests analyzing your sales cycle alongside client feedback to look for patterns and potential areas for improvement.
Oh, interesting.
It's like optimizing a machine,
Right.
constantly tweaking and refining to improve performance.
This all sounds great in theory,
Yeah.
but how do you actually manage all this data in a practical way?
That's where customer relationship management or CRM systems come in.
Okay.
They act as a central hub for all your client data.
So it's not just a glorified address book.
No, it's much more than that. It allows you to track interactions, manage your sales pipeline, and even automate certain tasks.
So it can help you streamline your workflow and personalize your interactions.
Exactly.
But with all this talk about data and systems,
Yeah.
does the guide address this fear that some people have of technology replacing human connection?
It does, and it emphasizes that technology should be viewed as an enabler, not a replacement.
Okay.
The human touch is still paramount in consultative selling.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yes.
Using data to enhance those interactions.
Right? But never forgetting that ultimately we're building relationships with real people.
Right, not just numbers on a screen.
Exactly. And speaking of relationships, the guide section on closing techniques is particularly interesting.
Okay, how so?
Well, it's not about using high-pressure tactics.
Right.
It's about recognizing buying signals and guiding the client towards a decision that benefits both parties.
So you're looking for those cues that the client is ready to commit.
Yeah, like when they start asking detailed questions about implementation,
Okay.
or they express enthusiasm about potential outcomes.
You're reading between the lines.
Exactly. And then you craft a closing statement that summarizes those key benefits, reiterates how your solution addresses their needs, and paints a clear picture of success.
It's like you're telling a story.
It is.
Where they are the hero and your solution is the key to achieving their goals.
That's a great way to put it.
But even with the best closing techniques, you're not going to win every deal.
True.
So how do you handle those rejections?
Well, the guide stresses the importance of viewing every rejection as a learning opportunity.
Okay.
It encourages you to seek feedback from the client, analyze what went well, what could have been improved, and use those insights to refine your approach.
So you're not viewing those setbacks as failures,
Not at all.
but as stepping stones
Yeah.
on the path to mastery.
Exactly. The guide also emphasizes the importance of seeking feedback, not just from clients, but from college and mentors as well.
So being open to constructive criticism,
Yes, even if it stings a little.
because ultimately it helps you grow.
Absolutely.
But feedback is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
So what else can salespeople do to stay ahead of the curve in this constantly evolving field?
Well, the guide stresses the importance of staying updated with industry trends and continuously investing in personal development.
So it's not enough to just master the techniques.
No, you need to be a lifelong learner
Always expanding your knowledge.
and refining your skills.
The guide recommends subscribing to industry publications, attending conferences, and engaging with thought leaders in your field.
It's all about staying informed and inspired.
So you're embracing that growth mindset,
Yes,
not just in terms of handling rejections,
right.
but in every aspect of your sales journey.
Exactly. The guide concludes by emphasizing that mastering consultative selling is an ongoing process, a journey of continuous learning and improvement.
The deep dive has been incredibly enlightening.
It is.
We've unpacked so much valuable information from this guide.
We have.
And I'm sure our listeners are eager to start applying these concepts to their own sales journeys.
I'm sure they are. But before we wrap up, there's one more crucial aspect of consultative selling that the guide delves into,
Oh, okay.
and that's continuous improvement.
It's so interesting how the guide really emphasizes that, even really experienced sales professionals should always be learning and evolving.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to just master the techniques. You have to really adapt to how the world of sales is always changing.
The guide actually calls continuous improvement like a core pillar of consultative selling. It's not an afterthought.
Right.
It basically says that, if you become complacent, you're not going to succeed.
So how do we approach this continuous improvement?
Right.
It's easy to just say, always be learning,
Yeah.
but how do we put that into practice?
Well, I think it starts with really being open to feedback,
Okay,
both the good and the bad.
right.
The guide encourages you to seek feedback not just from clients, but also from colleagues, mentors, even competitors.
I can see how that could be intimidating for some people.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of courage to ask for honest feedback,
it does.
especially when you're putting yourself out there like that.
The guide acknowledges that it's not a whit easy,
Right.
but it says that, feedback is a gift.
Okay.
It's a chance to learn and grow.
You're identifying those blind spots.
Exactly. And then you can refine your approach.
So we're creating this culture of continuous improvement.
That's right.
Not just for yourself, but for your whole team.
For everyone.
The guide also highlights the importance of, taking time to reflect on your own performance.
Yeah.
So it's not just about focusing on all those external factors,
Right.
but it's also about, stepping back and thinking about, okay, what did I do well?
Yeah.
What could I have done better?
What are some patterns I'm noticing?
It's like being your own coach.
Totally.
You're analyzing your own game tape
Exactly.
to figure out how to up your game.
The guide even suggests keeping a sales journal
Oh,
to
interesting.
document all your experiences, your insights, even those lessons learned.
So it helps you to improve, but it can also be a great tool for training other people.
That's right. It's like you're creating your own playbook of strategies and tactics.
Okay.
And it's constantly evolving as you learn and grow.
Feedback and reflection are important,
Yeah.
but what about keeping up with all the latest trends and knowledge?
Oh, that's crucial. The guide emphasizes that the best salespeople are the one who are always curious, always looking for new information and insights.
Right, so you have to be a lifelong learner.
Absolutely. Always expanding your knowledge and adapting to the changing world of sales.
The guide recommends subscribing to industry publications, going to conferences,
Right.
engaging with those thought leaders in your field.
It's about staying ahead of the curve.
Right, and carving out that time for professional development.
Yeah, make it a habit.
Wow, we've covered so much in this deep dive.
We have.
From the history of sales to emotional intelligence to data-driven decision-making.
And active listening, building trust, crafting those value propositions.
We even talked about ethics and continuous improvement.
It's a lot.
It really seems like consultative selling is more than just techniques.
It is.
Like a whole mindset.
A philosophy.
Building genuine relationships.
Yeah, you want everybody to win.
So what does this mean for our listeners? How can they take all of this and apply it to their own work?
I think a good first step is to think about your current approach to selling. Are you really embracing these principles of consultative selling
Are you prioritizing those relationships?
and understanding the client's needs?
Are you using data the right way?
And are you committed to always learning and growing?
These are the questions that are going to guide you on the path to mastering this approach.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right, there are going to be challenges and setbacks.
But if you have the right mindset and you're committed to growth,
You can become an exceptional consultative salesperson.
maybe you'll even write your own guide someday.
That's all the time we have for today.
Okay.
Until next time, happy selling, everybody.